Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and in this episode, I would like to elaborate on a topic that I did for you a couple of days ago, the Orlando tragic death. A couple of days ago, I did a multiple topic episode when I talked about the Will Smith, um, Chris Rock incident, which I will actually do a follow up on a later show. But in this episode, and I also did a topic about the Orlando tragic death of a boy who actually fell to his death in Orlando, and I want to do a update on that, and I want to elaborate on that, and I want to get your comments and questions on that. Don't forget to email us roundtable00@yahoo.com. You can also comment at the bottom of this page, and also don't forget to click and subscribe to our channel to get um, news, to get our episodes, to watch our previous episodes, and to get updates on our future episodes. All right, let's get into it. And episode I did a couple of days ago, I did an episode about a Orlando tragedy that happened. It was one of the trending stories that was going around along with the Will Smith and Chris Rock incident when a young boy of Tyrese Sampson, because I researched it, was 14 years old, and it was a newly dropped ride that occurred in Orlando, that opened up in Orlando um, earlier this year, I believe. And the guy, when the dropped down, he fell out of the ride and fell to his death. Now, I saw the video and I wanted to believe that it was fake, and there was a lot of people who were saying, "No, it's not fake. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake." And I wanted to believe that the boy was okay because I was like, okay, maybe it was wasn't as bad, but he actually fell to his death, and with that came a lot of controversy, a lot of things behind it, and a lot of you know scenarios behind it. One of them is I saw a post and it was like, was the boy too big for the ride? Like, I guess they were saying he was too fat. The first thing that came out of mind was people were saying that this was a ride that didn't have no belts, and I did mention that in the last episode. Um, Normally, when you go on a ride, like I've mentioned before, there are several rides I've been on that didn't really have restraints, or didn't really have a lot of restraints, or seatbelts and stuff like that. I told you recently when I went on a ride in Orlando, and a friend of mine went with me, and we went on the ride, and I mentioned in the last episode, he was like, "Oh, this doesn't feel safe, it doesn't feel like it's not really secure, whatever." But I told him, most of these rides with lesser restraints are more intense, and when it comes to these rides, you have to look at the fact that you know there are certain rides that you know they have to have a lot of restraints due to the duration of the ride. Like if you go to, like I was saying, Fun Spot America, there's a ride called the Sky Coaster, whatever you want to call it, and that you have to have armor of everything on you, because you're like falling to your, like you're on a string. And there are several rides, like there are several roller coaster rides and stuff that needs, restraints and all that and everything. Now I've seen the video of the ride, not the. I've seen that video of the boy falling to his death, but I've also seen like several other videos of people riding it. And I'm like, and I see that it tilts you a little bit, and I'm like, okay. And a lot of comments was going around like, oh, after seeing this, I've seen this video after the boy got killed from it, and it's really scary and stuff. Like I told you in the last episode, I did one drop ride here, and because a friend of mine said, I want you to get on it one time, and then that's it. And then I ended up getting on the ride, and afterwards I felt like, wow. And the passenger that was next to me on the ride was like, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm fine. It's just that I'm not a fan of drop rides." Um, and there was an issue with, they didn't have no seat belts and all that. It wasn't like a lot of safety restraint. And then it came to the point where they were saying, was the kid too big to ride on the ride? And let me elaborate on that. Normally on most rides, and I've seen it, there's a light that sits above every seat. When you click and that light comes on, that means that the ride is secure. If that light doesn't come on, that means that that passenger isn't secure. And that's what most rides I've seen. Not every rider has it, but that's what most rides I've seen. My thing is, and then there are other rides like Rip Ride Rocket and Universal Studios, and I've seen it on most rides. They have specific seats for plus size people, because a lot of these roller coasters and stuff, it's hard for these plus size people to get on. Now I don't know how big Tyree Sampson was when he got on the ride, but my thing is, if you knew that there should have been a restriction, like there should have been some type of, okay, let the light be on, or let the, because now they're saying that Orlando is now doing restriction or weight restrictions and stuff like that. But I'm like, now you want to do weight restrictions at the ride? My thing is, there should have been restrictions on the ride before that passenger got on. Even when the ride opened up, you should have had, well, okay, let's have one seat or two seats, dedicated to plus size people, where we can make the seat a little bit larger, because that's what they have at Rip Ride Walking. That's what they have on several other rides, because I've seen it where there are plus size people that'll get on rides, and then they'll be too big for a seat. They're like, oh, you have to get in the other seat and stuff like that. And then I've seen rides where they have these lights, like I told you, they have these lights where you click and the light comes on, and you're like, okay. And then some rides they have to say you have to squeeze your tummy in to get a click and all that. But now you want to do weight restrictions, and you want to do restrictions on these rides. My thing was, even if he was big or not big, you have to realize one thing. Those ride attendants should have made that ride secure. Something had to go wrong within that time of him riding on that ride. I've been on rides where it feels like it wants to throw me off the ride. And then I get kind of scared, but I don't get scared, because for me, I'm a slim guy. As you can see, I know you don't see my full body at times, but I'm a slim person. So for me, it's not as bad as you would. But then again, slimness is not always 100% perfect on rides, because slimness, you can easily get, because like when you're in the wind and you're slim, and the wind blows so hard it can blow you away, especially in a tornado. For a big person, you're in the wind, you can stand your ground and be like, oh, I'm too heavy, and and then there's certain errors with that. You're slim on the ride, and you can easily just phew. But a big guy, it'll be, the only thing about a big guy on the ride is that, if you're not secure enough, you can fall off. But my thing is, now you want to add restrictions. My thing is, Orlando should have already had restrictions. First of all, Orlando is a tourist adventure park attraction. That's one of the top 3 major cities in Florida, leading Miami and Fort Lauderdale being the other 2. But those are the top. That's one of the top major cities to visit, because Orlando is like a family city. You have all these theme parks, Universal Studios, Disney World. You have these mediocre theme parks like Fun Spot, and you have these Ripley's Believe It or Not, and then you have the Icon Park where this was at, and you have all these places that people go to and attractions in Orlando. And Orlando should be able to have where they should be, okay, look, we need to test out these rides beforehand. Let's test it out with a big person. Let's test it out with a small person. Let's test it out with a medium-sized person. We need to test out how secure is these rides, and stuff like that. I know for a fact, people was going in on this. People was going in, oh, the tragic ride. And I was saying, this is not the first time that a ride ended in a tragic death. There have been dated back into the early 1900s where rides have had tragic deaths or accidents or even malfunctions throughout the centuries. It's not the first time that this happened. So you weighing on, oh, was he too fat or too big to ride the ride? There wasn't a lot of restraints on the ride. There was this, there was that. You can't say that, you know, oh, everybody thinking that this should have never happened and stuff. My thing is, this is not the first, and it won't probably be the last, because you have theme parks and carnivals and fairs and events that happen throughout the world. You have theme parks overseas. You have theme parks in America. You have theme parks in different states and different cities. You have rides, even mediocre rides. A small ride can even, throw somebody off. And I remember when Ride Rocket at Universal Studios first opened up, there was mechanical problems with that. I remember, a few years back at the youth fair down here, there was an incident with a ride, and I believe somebody got killed. There were several incidents. There have been incidents with deaths, and not only just deaths, accidents that occurred on rides throughout the years. I'm quite sure Orlando has had its share of ride incidents, within decades. From Universal Studios to Disney World. You know, um, when I recently visit Fun Spot, I went to Fun Spot in last year. I told you I went 3 times. I did an episode in Orlando for Star. If you can look at my previous episode, I did an episode at Star Island Resort, and that was in August of 2021. And that's when I visited Fun Spot. And me and a friend of mine was going to get on the go-kart rides. And one of the go-kart rides, go-karts, it's not really a ride, we're riding the go-karts. One of the personnel's, their wheel fell off of their go-kart. And what made me think was like, oh wow, the wheel fell off the go-kart, and they had to go pull the go-kart back because the wheel fell off. And I was like, and me and my friend was like, wow, we're not getting on them go-karts. And then not only that, there was several other incidents that occurred, like maybe 1 or 2 more incidents that occurred while we was waiting in line. And then my friend was like, okay, no, I'm not getting on this. Like, I'm not going on the go-karts. And I was like, yes, because, with the Fun Spot, their go-kart rides are already intense because of the way that it's like a layers of levels of riding. And I was like, yeah, you don't want to, we're not getting on this because this wheel falling off, and then you got this one incident and that incident. And the wheel falling off the go-kart was just like, okay, they don't maintain these go-karts and check on them every day. They just probably, make sure they got gas in them, and then just, okay, that's fine. But you got to test out every go-kart before it goes out into service. And that's what these rides is. And a lot of these people are scared and spooked, and it was like, okay, I'm not getting on no rides because of this. I love theme parks. I love getting on amusement rides and stuff like that. As you can see, in my segment, Hotspots of South Florida, I go to various locations throughout South Florida. And, I've traveled to Orlando, which I didn't really do a video at most theme parks in Orlando, but I will in a future reference. It's based because of a lot of people feel, oh, they're gonna, the ride is, it's too scary, it's too dangerous. It's not really dangerous to get on a ride. The only reason the ride is dangerous is because of poor management and poor construction or poor operations. Because a lot of these rides are man built. They build these rides when you come to like a fair or a carnival. A lot of these construction rides, a lot of these rides are man built. Yes, rides are meant to have malfunctions. Rides are meant to have, disruption with them. You know, it's not going to be like you're going to have a ride that's been operating for 30 and 40 years that have never had a malfunction a day in its life. No, every ride, regardless from a kiddie ride to an adult ride, it's going to have a malfunction throughout its run. Now, for it to have a malfunction at the beginning of its construction, like beginning of its making, and then like in the first run, that will have to be done to poor, you know, construction and poor operation of it. But to be 10, 20 years in the making and you have malfunction in the ride, yeah, because it's been running for 20 years, you know. But, you know, this just recently opened and then you had a tragic accident. I understand if you recently opened and then, you know, there was a malfunction in the operation or something like that. But you recently opened and now you have a tragic death. So now they're looking, oh, was he too big to ride the ride? Was he? But my thing is, you can't sit up here and think different factors of this ride. Yeah, you're still doing an investigation because, of course, the family is going to get a lot of money of it. And I always tell people there isn't a lot. You can give them $1,000,000 and $1,000,000,000, but that's not going to bring back their son. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of money out of this, you know, but a lot of people were like, oh, yeah, I can sue the company. I'm going to get a lot of money. But if you're dead, it's not like that's a feeling you can't get back, you know. It's a lot of factors playing around this. And I was like, then they say there was a friend who went to the park with him, was speaking out and everything. And I was like, the friend speaking out really doesn't help, but it may give a shining look of it. You know, that's just like you going to Universal Studios and you getting on a ride and then you fall off the ride to your death, and now they're looking into the investigation and stuff. Like, first of all, the ride is going to have to be completely closed. They're going to shut down the park for at least a day or two before they reopen the park, because now you have to have the police, the FBI, or whatever out there to investigate. So the ride is going to be shut down for a couple of days. I don't know if the ride has reopened since then, but now you know the ride has got to be shut down for at least a couple of days until they figure out and do the investigation. And then now that seat is going to definitely have to be shut down in that seat, you know, to where, you know, they're still going to have to do an investigation, you know, because when I saw the video, I was like, I hope there isn't blood on the floor. Like, I didn't want to see him bleeding. I didn't want to see none of that because, you know, tragic things, you know, I'm a person that I don't know if I ever mentioned, I'm not a fan of hospitals. Like, when I go in a hospital to see somebody who has a family member or friend or something, you know, it's just nothing. That's why I could never work in the healthcare field, because even seeing somebody with a band-aid on or something, you know, a bondage on, or seeing like an IV stick in them, it just gets to me where I can't take it. Like, it's a feeling, you know, I can't take. So for see that, I said, when I saw the video, I said, I hope there's no blood on the ground. You know, I really don't want to see it. But when I seen it, it was like, okay, it's not a good view of I seen it. So I thank God, because if I would have seen the main view, I would have been like, oh my God, I can't take it. I can't take it. You know, and that what it was like. People now, oh, there's many factors playing behind this. There's many factors behind. Yeah, there's many factors behind it. But you also got to realize it was the manufacturers and the operation of the ride's fault. Let me tell you why. Number one, every passenger that gets on that ride, you have to make sure that they're secure before that ride goes up. You have to make sure that each passenger is safely strapped and secure on the ride before it goes up. If they are not, they have to either do one or two things. They have to either switch seats or they have to exit the ride because it's not safe for them. Now, what happened before that ride, I honestly can't tell you, but I feel that is what's supposed to happen. You know, I've been on rides where I see people where they say, oh, you can't sit here, or they're too big, or the lap bar can't come down completely on them. like I told you in the last episode, one of the safest rides I've ever been on and the safest roller coasters that I feel doesn't have many restraints is the Woody Woodpecker Nut House Coaster, which sits in the kids zone at Universal Studios, Orlando. And the reason why is because it's not an upside down ride. It's not a ride that goes long. The ride is less than a minute, like maybe a minute and some seconds, less than that, less than a minute ride. And the reason why is because it's like a kiddie coaster. And when I visited SeaWorld, SeaWorld has a Grover coaster. And I didn't ride the Grover coaster in the Sesame Street land. But the Grover coaster is like a kiddie ride. So a lot of with them rides, they're going to have less restraints. But certain rides like Rip Ride Rocket and, you know, the Incredible Hulk and all that. I've rode Rip Ride Rocket. My first time riding Rip Ride Rocket was actually back in 2018 when I rode Rip Ride Rocket. And it was more intense than anything, and at that time I wasn't really a roller coaster enthusiast. It took me a time to ride roller coasters, and my very first roller coaster was at the Miami-Dade County Fair and Exposition, was the Double Loop. If any of y'all from Miami remember the Double Loop, it was there. If you don't, Google it on here on YouTube. Not Google it, but look it up here on YouTube, and there's maybe a few videos of it. And it was one of the very first roller coasters I've ever been on, and I was skeptical about going on it. And then when I got on it, it was fun. It's now no longer at the fair. It's been gone from the fair for years, but it was one of my very, very first roller coaster rides, and I love it. My thing is with this, like I said, it's always been, where a lot of these rides have to have extra safety precautions. I've had rides where they have seat belts and lap bars, and because if the lap bar don't work, the seat belt is there. And I've always held on to many, like when I get on at Fun Spot. The Fun Spot, though, one of the main roller coasters that I love is the Mind Blower. I've been on the Mind Blower, I've been on the Hurricane, I've been on White Lightning, because the Mind Blower and the Hurricane is at Fun Spot Kissimmee, and White Lightning is the coaster at Fun Spot Orlando. And of course you have Galaxy Spin, which is another coaster, but Galaxy Spin is like mainly a kiddie ride or whatever, kiddie coaster. But my thing is with this, they have several restraints with these rides. And for you to be a drop ride, now you have to look at how much restraints, because people were saying there was no seat belts on the ride. People were saying there wasn't and I don't know, the riding fully, because the video I've seen, it didn't really show the restraints or anything of the ride, because I'm guessing the video was done before this accident happened, because there are like several channels where they theme park, reviews where people go to theme parks, and just like me with hotspots in South Florida, where I go to different theme parks and fun centers and I talk about them. And there are several other channels like that go across the world and across the country and across the state that review several rides at theme parks and stuff like that. And I look at it as if, yeah, but you're not, now it's to the point where how do you go on by keeping this ride a safe ride? Because now you're going to be losing a lot of people to this ride. If you knew that somebody fell off with this ride to their tragic death, would you go on the ride? Honestly, I don't do drop rides, so that's already a red flag for me, because I've never did drop rides. I told you I did one. I went on a drop ride here at the fair here in South Florida. And I went on it one time, and my friend said, go on it one time and you don't ever have to go on it again. I did it, and it was an experience that I didn't want to feel, and I never want to feel again. And after that incident, I never want to feel that. I never want to do it again, because now that makes me feel like as if, what factors played around that? Was the passenger fully secured on the ride? Was it poorly constructed of the ride? There was a lot of restraints on the ride? What was it that made the passenger fall off the ride? I want to know what y'all think about this. Do you think that there was too many factors played around this? Because there was too many factors in my opinion. There was too many factors. You're saying, oh, there was no seatbelts on the ride. Oh, and then they're saying that he was too big for the ride. And now they're saying that they're going to be doing a lot of restrictions for the ride. The restrictions should have came way before the ride ended up being in the operation and in service. Because you're supposed to have restrictions. Like when you go to, like, especially when you go to fairs and kind of when you go to amusement parks, they always have a height restriction for certain rides, because a lot of these rides are not for younger people. Just like boomers. Like when I my very first Hotspots in episode, Hotspots South Florida episode, when I did at Boomers, and there's a height requirement for when you riding the go-karts. There's a height requirement for you to be the driver or a single driver, and you have to be a certain height to be a single driver. If not, you will have to go in the double seat cars, where you have to have somebody like an adult, or you have to be with another, person with you. But to actually be a single driver, there's a height requirement, And I look at it as if there's a height requirement to a lot of these roller coasters and a lot of these theme park rides. There's a height requirement, because you can't be a 6 and 7-year-old getting on the Rip Ride Rocket, because you're not tall enough or big enough, or probably even older enough, than a 15 or 16-year-old, And then again, a 15 and 16-year-old may not be able, because, there are, not to be offensive, there are Websters and there are Gary Colemans, where there are, little people that are not big enough or tall enough to get on these rides, and they can be in their 30s and 40s, and still you don't have the height requirement. So I want to know what y'all think about this. Was there too much behind this? Where there was a lot behind this. There's a lot of, factors played behind this. You think there was too many factors behind this? Do you think that the ride was poorly secure, or was it secure enough? Do you think that, this is something, a ride that you would get on? What do you feel about that? Email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com. Don't forget to comment at the bottom of this page. I would like to know y'all factor about this. I would like to know y'all weighing about this, because to me, honestly, this is a topic, and this is an incident that's going to go on for the next few weeks, because now it is an Orlando attraction. It's not like it's a mediocre fair where something happened at a local fair or a local carnival. This happened at a theme park in Orlando, which is now going to spark a lot of situations behind this and a lot of controversy behind this, because you got a lot of theme parks in Orlando, and these families bring their children every year, and every month they attract a lot of people. So now it's going to be where it's going to be a lot of skeptical about getting on certain rides here. Getting on these rides, getting on these attractions, doing through these places and doing these things. Just like when I told you what happened with me at Fun Spot, when I went and one of the wheels fell off of the go-karts, and then there was another incident with one of the go-karts, and me and my friend was like, okay, I'm not going, because there's too many incidents going down on just one go-kart, and we're not gonna get on these go-karts. And it skeptic us on going on it, because of the series of events that was occurring. So email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com. Also comment at the bottom of this page. Don't forget to click and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to watch our previous episodes, and don't forget to comment and weigh in on any episode you wish to comment on. I appreciate you watching this. This is a Roundtable Talk. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next episode. Have a good day.